Good afternoon. As we kick off our afternoon sessions, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce our second keynote speaker, Dr. Merritt Moore. Dr. Moore is a remarkable individual, renowned as both a quantum physicist and a professional ballerina. She currently serves as a distinguished artist in residence at NYU Abu Dhabi, where her interdisciplinary work continues to inspire and captivate audiences around the world. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Moore to the stage.
Hi guys, how is everyone doing? So, thank you for the intro. Yes, I have a background in quantum physics. I'm a professional ballet dancer. I'm now dancing with robots and professor at NYU Abu Dhabi. So in summary, I'm like a dancing dork. But the two things that have really been fascinating for me, and as I'm kind of exploring, in particular with robots, dancing with robots, is one is like creativity in this new era of AI, and the second is love in this new age of AI and robots. And so a defining moment for me was during my PhD at Oxford, and I had friends who had just graduated and they were working at DeepMind, and they were working on the AlphaGo program. And AlphaGo is the AI system that's been trained by DeepMind to play this ancient game of Go, which has been played by humans for over 2,500 years. And not only that is, we think chess, or I grew up thinking chess was complex. So like if you could do all the possibilities of chess, it would be all the grains of sand on a beach. But like the complexity of Go in comparison is all the grains of a beach of many galaxies. It's like infinitely more complex. So it was a very suspenseful week. And we like stayed up and we watched these games, which lasted like 5 hours, and there were 5 of these games in a matter of span of a week. And it was a historical moment because it was the first time that this AI system is playing against a human, not just a regular human, Lee Sedol, who was the top Go player at that time. And the AI system beat him 4 out of the 5 times, which was so incredible. But the part that really made a difference for me was listening to the commentary. And so in particular, there's this game to move 37 where you could just see the commentary be like, he was so confused. He was like, what just happened? First, they thought it was a mistake. And then it was like, you could just see this wave of recognition that it was just such an incredibly complex, creative, beautiful move. And Lee Sedol, in the aftermath of playing the games, he was like, I thought this was going to be some probability calculation. He was like, I was shocked by how beautiful and creative these moves were by this machine. He was like, it just completely blew me away. And so that was the first little moment where I was like, okay, this AI tech, this was back in 2016. I'm like, okay, I'm really curious in exploring this further. And the second part of that story that actually I found really fascinating was there was a study done then analyzing the moves from 1950 to 2021. They analyzed 5.8 million moves, so a bunch of moves. And they gave it this decision quality index, this DQI. And what they saw was that the moves from 1950 to 2016, like humans kind of improved a little bit, but it wasn't very impressive. It was like actually some years it would go down. Even though humans had been playing this for 2,500 years, it was like we kind of had capped at like new creative moves. But in 2016, there was like this huge change, and then there was this remarkable improvement in terms of creativity and this DQI. So the part that's fascinating is like humans weren't just imitating what the AlphaGo, what the AI systems were doing. They were being inspired by it, and then they were then themselves having better, even improving their quality of moves. So in that instance, it was a realization that, look, wow, like human potential and creativity, it really is about having a great vision of what is possible. And it was really a mark for me, which was our technology is going to be so powerful and assist us in unleashing our human potential and creativity. And because it reminded me of this example of 4-minute mile. You guys familiar with it? Yeah, right? It was like, it's this remarkable tale of like a physical feat, but what's I find most remarkable about it is it's actually a very cautionary tale of how ingrained beliefs can not just paralyze or limit a society, but also can accelerate a society, and not just individuals, but a large group of people. Because at that time, some doctors, just a handful, had said, physiologically, humans cannot win or run a race in less than 4 minutes. And for 70 years, humans from around the world trained and they tried to run this mile in less than 4 minutes, and no one did it. Except that then there was this one spunky medical student at Oxford, Roger Bannister, and he didn't see it as quote unquote impossible, he saw it as this challenge, and more than that, an opportunity. So he trained in his own way. In 1952, on a rainy May day, he ran that race, and he did the unthinkable, which was in 3 minutes, 0.54 seconds. So astounding. But it wasn't that. It was then a month later. So no one had beaten the race in 70 years. And then a month later, 3 people do it in less than 4 minutes. And after that, more and more. And now it's like thousands of people have done it. So it's not just a tale of it's not a physiological achievement in my head. Like, that story is really kind of this psychological breakthrough that was achieved when it was shown that there is something that is like a vision of what is possible. And I was seeing that as a parallel to the new technologies that's coming out, such as AlphaGo, which gave us this sort of opened our eyes to the possibilities of what can happen. And it just allows for not just individuals, but whole societies to break through. Because in essence, it's like how many of you guys have heard the word, it's impossible, and felt that belief, right? And so it sort of allowed me to see, wow, and analyze how many times have I limited myself in thinking that something is not possible. So personal background of how I entered this world of science and art and dance is, so I entered my first dance class at age 12. And for me, I had a very hard time earlier in growing up with words, and I always said the bare minimum. I did not want to talk if possible. So then when I entered that dance class, it was this breath of fresh air. It was like, oh my gosh, I can express everything I'm feeling in this exact instant. And it was like someone had given me lungs and I could breathe again. And so you can imagine how it felt when I was being told, no, it's impossible, right? I started dancing too late. I was going to a very academic school. I liked math and science. People don't do both. You have to choose one or the other. And so I was quite devastated, but I loved physics, so I was at Harvard studying physics. But I had these 2 little questions that were, why, 2 questions, which was what if, and why not? Why can't I possibly pursue both? And so I was okay, why not then? I need to study 12 hours a day or whatever it is at physics, and then somehow I have to dance 8 to 12 hours a day. How am I going to fit these 2 in? And so I'd wake up and I'd do releves while I brushed my teeth, and then you can all do abs if you like. You can sit in the chair and lean back and work your abs and feet exercises while I was listening to my thermodynamics lecture. And I went and auditioned 25 times. I got rejected 24 times. But then I got into Zurich Ballet. And I called on my dad, being Dad, I got into Zurich Ballet. And he's like, I know, I heard the bad news. But I was like, it's okay, you love me anyways. And so I was at Harvard, and then I was like, okay, so I'll take a year, and I danced with Zurich Ballet. And normally I have slides. Sorry, like, I feel so bad. I normally have slides. So you're gonna get interpretive dance of this. Okay, so then I went to Zurich Ballet, and I was like, but then I heard, oh, you know, you have to choose at some point. I thought, okay, I do wanna be a good physicist, so I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna throw away the point shoes. I'll go back to Harvard and study physics. Now I'm good. But then Boston Ballet was like, you know, I was like, who says no to Boston Ballet? So I was like, okay, we'll just dance one more time. And then I was like, okay, but now I'm gonna be a good physicist. And then Jose Mateo Ballet Company offered me, and I was like, okay, just one more time. But then I was like, now I'm going to Oxford to do my PhD in quantum optics. We're gonna be good physicists. But then English National Ballet offered, so I was like, oh, gotta do that. English National Ballet, then I went back to do Oxford, graduated, and then Norwegian National Ballet. So I was like dancing with Norwegian National Ballet, and then NYU Abu Dhabi offered me the position to teach a robotics class. So I was like, okay, we do that. But then Boston Ballet offered me again, and then Boston Dynamics AI Institute, and then Boston Ballet again, and then New York University. So this has been continuing. So even this year, I was dancing with Boston Ballet, working with Boston Dynamics AI Institute at NYU Abu Dhabi. And I was just like, oh my gosh, why not both? Like, why do we have to choose either being the analytic brain or the creative brain? Why, you know, all of us have both sides of the brain in our head. Why do we have to constantly try to say, oh, we're either left brain or right brain? And so at that point, I was like, oh, it's more exhausting trying to hide from the dance world that I do physics and hide from the physics world that I do dance. So I was like, we just need to, I'm just gonna accept to doing both. And at that time, which was remarkable and timely, was that there is an application out to go undergo astronaut selection process on BBC. So they had 1,000 applicants. I was one of the 12 selected. So it was incredibly rigorous. They had us, first day, like, we had to hover a helicopter and then get dunked in the water and break out of a capsule and call for help, and then fly to Germany to actually use a simulator that docks the Soyuz to the International Space Station. It was wild ride. And then after that, another opportunity where I was one of the final 16 to be a potential artist to go around the moon on Starship SpaceX for the Dear Moon project. The project got canceled. But those opportunities allowed me to think about, what does the future look like? What does the future, not just here on Earth, but out there in outer space? What does human and machine interaction look like? And then this thing called the pandemic happened, as you know, and I couldn't dance with humans. And so I started dancing with a robot, because robots don't get COVID. And my robot, sometimes named Fred AI Stare, Botany Spears, Botman and Robin, we would just hang out at this warehouse every day from like 7 a.m. to midnight. The security guard was thoroughly confused, because he's like, what are you doing? Like, oh my gosh, go home. And there's many aspects of it that I found fascinating. One was, if being by myself from 7 a.m. to midnight in a warehouse it just wouldn't have happened, except that I had this companion, this robot, that was keeping me company. And so as I first started kind of exploring what is creativity and human potential going to look like in this age of AI, I'm now very fascinated and would love to talk to all of you. It's like, what does love look like? What do relationships look like in this new era of age in AI? Not just, and I don't just mean like human and machine. I also mean human and human in context of this new era. So that was one thing where I was like, this is bizarre, but I can hang out with this robot all day, every day, because I have this companion with me, who's probably, I would feel, of course, we humanize it. It was like, I'm like judgmental that it keeps executing all the dance moves perfectly, and I keep screwing up. But that's besides the point. So that part I found interesting. And then I was exploring, how body language, how can that be expressed, not just with a human body, but now with this robot. Videos of me dancing with the robot are online, Instagram, YouTube, internet, that thing. And so it started off with little snippets where even just a 15-second dance, it would take me 7 hours to try to perfect and try to find the right timing of things. And now I've been performing around the world with it. This year was like World Economic Forum, National Theater of Belgrade, Mexico, Germany, USA, so all over the place. And I think it's because there's this I think in the sense that science fiction is this window into the future of scientific technology, and also like the emotional and moral impacts of the future. I find that Dancing with the Robot is similar in the sense that it's a window into the future, into this evolving dynamics of relationships and love in this new era of AI. And so that's a lot of what I've been exploring and super curious about. The questions that do arise are, do we think that humans are going to be less creative and in this new era with AI and technology? And the example I like to give is, the camera was invented 200 years ago. And at that time, all the painters were like, woe is me, like, no one's gonna love us anymore, like, no one's gonna want to buy our paintings or want us. 200 years later, we still have and love painters. But the interesting thing is they definitely pivoted, right? So before it was very realistic. And then because the camera was invented, then you got abstract art, you got Impressionism, you got Picasso. So I think it's it's a necessity to be able to pivot in this new age. And then the other question that often is like, oh, are humans going to become obsolete? And the example I give for that, which is, a machine beat a human in chess over 20 years ago. And yet, 20 years later, no one is watching human-machine games. No one's watching machine versus machine, right? So there is this intrinsic, I think, interest in the human dynamic, the emotional component, the effort, the drive, the difficulty that comes along with that. And so it's just a reminder that, just as in the banister example, that we need to be aware of the limiting beliefs that prevent us from reaching our full potential. And with the AlphaGo example, that technology can actually be this catalyst that helps us see outside of the box and to become even more creative. And then with drive and beliefs and hard work, that there's so much more that we can overcome, and that it's not this thing that's going to limit us. I think it's very much a tool that allows us to see further. And that is my exploration at the moment. And I'm open for Q&A. If you guys have a Q&A, I think there's like some device here that allows you guys to write in questions. Thanks.
Hi, yes, so all of you actually, you should have like this QR code. The QR code is around, and if not, maybe we can distribute a few of them. You can scan the code and then ask some questions, and they will come to Mary, then she will answer them, okay?
Or I can just take questions, or not. I can dance. No, I can't.
But only you, okay? I don't.
No, I'm joking. Everyone is right. No, it's okay.
So maybe I think yes, we can pass along the mic maybe to take some questions. So there we have one.
Yeah, people are like they're afraid I'm going to ask them to dance. I think like okay, that's right. Keep her talking. Oh, there's.
Yeah.
So there's a question here, which is building off your painter photography metaphor, photography became an art in its own right. Super, yeah. A new kind of art. Can you see any new kinds of art possible with AI as opposed to merely enhancing art? Can humans become sentient with AI? So definitely I see possibilities for new art. And that's this, well, the exploration with dancing with the robot for me has been that. It's dancing, but it's, I do see that there's, and I can see it becoming more and more popular. I've started 4 years ago, but I can see, there's students around that are dancing with robots. And I do find that we're gonna be able to recognize the human component of it in the same way that we don't say that's, oh, the camera is called Tom, like that photograph is by the camera. In the same way, I think we're gonna say, oh, that dance was choreographed by. You're gonna be able to see the human individual in the choreography and the way that it's expressed. Yeah, question.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. My question is also surrounding the metaphor that you used. I think one of the things, and I'm curious what you think about this, but one of the things that I think we humans tend to do is that even if let's say you can find a robot that can do something, there's still the fascination with the amount of labor that's put into some kind of exercise. So let's say, yes, we move to Picasso, we have abstract art, but at the same time also in the art scene, there's photorealism. I mean, it's literally mimicking something that a photo can do, but we're so fascinated by the sheer amount of dedication, sheer amount of labor that goes into it. And I'm wondering if you see the same thing maybe happening in AI as well, where even if technology can do things that human beings can do, the fact that they can do it a lot faster kind of cheapens it somehow, and that we're fascinated by the fact that a human being can do it even if it takes a lot more time.
I love the example you give, because it is true, right? We care so much about the effort that went into something, right? We love that story component. Well, that's the part that makes us human. So for sure, I don't see anybody putting on their walls like AI art and replacing taking down Picasso to put that up, right? Because we just know it was done in a second. But we maybe would put it up if we knew a machine took 200 years to do it, right? So there is something about the effort, it doesn't really make sense, but that's, we're human, we don't make sense. But it's understanding what we care about actually. It's not really the output, it's really the work and the time that goes into it. I think there's a question here, and someone had their hand here.
Thank you so much for the amazing presentation, just with your words and also with how you move. It's beautiful. It's obvious that you, despite the best efforts of maybe traditional academic and environments, you found a way to make these worlds work for you and to have significant contributions to both. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on how we can make it a little bit easier, because I've met tons of scientists that are amazing artists, but they do it as a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And tons of
and you have to hide it.
and the other way around, right? So I just wanted to get your thoughts on all the things you've experienced. How can we do that a little bit better and create those spaces for people to really co-create and co-contribute knowledge and creation?
I don't know. I think, well, just sharing experiences is, there's definitely been this mentality that if you have something that's more than just a hobby, then you're disloyal to, oh my God, you're disloyal to physics or disloyal to, for me, it was the ballet world. Even though I spent just as much time in both, I just didn't sleep very much, but I spent as much time as everyone else who was a physicist and a ballet dancer. For me, it starts with the education at a young age, right? Is giving that, especially now, AI and computers and Siri and Alexa can answer all the questions. We're taught to endlessly answer questions on SAT exams, on homework, but there's not much emphasis on asking a good question. And that's where I see the biggest breakthroughs happen, right? So Einstein, back in the day, he imagined that he was this photon on a light beam looking at the electromagnetic wave, and he was like, whoa, what would happen if I was like looking forward and back? And he came up with special relativity, right? He like asked a question that made him come up with this theory. And then later, because he had to communicate with his friends, he was like, okay, fine, we'll figure out the math for it, but intuitively, he kind of felt he knew. Likewise, like Elon Musk had the question of, gosh, rockets are very expensive, can we reuse them? And then SpaceX is formed. So, but we don't emphasize asking questions. We beat that out of the students. Like, stop asking us why the sky is blue. Like, just here, like, just memorize and regurgitate. So that component, like that, being able to ask questions, and then also it's, I think, celebrating the weird quirks that they have. Like, oh my gosh, great, you're like obsessed with, I don't know, this, or like you're obsessed with tinkering with it, like all of that stuff, and being like, that's amazing, that's super cool, that's gonna be your superpower later in life, rather than being like, ignore it, like study this textbook, memorize it, regurgitate it. So I think it comes from the environment in a big way.
Sorry, I'm gonna, because AI technology, so we're having a
Oh,
hybrid
sorry.
questions, yeah. And there is one here that I think it can be quite interesting, and is whether can humans become sentient with AI?
What's a poll? Who says yes here? Can humans become sentient with AI? Yes? Or is it no? So you're saying, I think I feel the same way. I don't know.
Yeah. So let me do one more from here. You talk about love. Do you think there is exploitation of AI and robot? Should we show them love? Related.
Should we show them love? I mean, this is a topic that I find interesting in the sense of, so I was having a great conversation with Hiroshi, who's the director at MIT Media Lab, and we're talking about the difference between love and not like fake love, but love that you might not be true, but you think is true, right? So what if people do then have feelings for something that doesn't love them back, or for instance, love is so complex. It's universal, but it's very complex, right? So biochemically, neuropeptides and neurotransmitters are released from the brain, such as like oxytocin, vasopressin, dopamine, and serotonin, which then regulate our emotions and attachment styles. Can something that's non-human also have the same effect? And is that going to be able to be programmed? And then if so, I think it becomes questions of like, where's the line drawn? What are the ethical boundaries? Is also because once it becomes a commodity or something that can be possibly sold or bought, like what does that future look like? And so those are the things that, even though I'm like dancing with this robot, like those are the types of questions that I'm really interested in and trying to research and still exploring how to do that.
Thank you for this presentation. We were discussing about the art, evolving art with the help of the AI, and AI is helping a lot for the art, music, script writing, photography. But previously, we will take an example of photography, wildlife photography, of different type of photography. But when we were previously searching on Google for something, we were having a search for the genuine photographs and everything. But now, as time passes, the AI-based pictures are more and more on the feed. So how we have to, now it's very difficult to the decline of genuinity and decline of the original thing on the feed or our original Google searches and everywhere. How we can differentiate in the future, how we are having a legislation or anything, that we can have a genuine thing when we are searching for something, or we are having an AI based thing when we are searching for it. Thank you.
I mean, that's a super complex and great question, because now everything is mixed together, right? There's like, it's very hard, because I think no one was expecting it when it happened, right? And so now it is a bit messy in that sense. And I wish there was a way that people could track it. I mean, I think there are endless policies or aspects that we wish that we could be able to differentiate between AI versus human, especially now. I'm sure it's going to be, or if it hasn't already been a huge topic, is fake news and being able to differentiate that. And whoever can figure that out, or like figure out how to tag things, it's going to do really well, I think. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Hi, my name is Pavel Gmirek. I'm with the International Labour Organization, but I'm also a co-chair in AI for Good series of the thematic strand on AI and work. And as part of that, we recently did an interview with Duncan Crabtree Ireland, who was the lead negotiator during the Hollywood actors' strike. And we spoke about what were the things that led to the strike and main concerns. And I have a question for you as a performer.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the fact that today it's absolutely possible to scan your performance with technology and replicate it without your consent? And in many places, that's not regulated at all. So one could do that. Do you feel as a performer protected, or you feel it's fine? Or do you feel like you're currently more exposed to the risk of putting all those years of practice, all those years of dancing with a robot, into the hands of technology that can just take and replicate it? I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you.
So personally, of course, don't like the idea. But I do see the silver lining in it, in the fact that I think people are going to be exhausted by what they see online and not knowing what's real or not. And I do feel like there's this extra energy in live performances, live events coming together, because it's like, it's this breath of fresh air, and we're like I think it's that energy that one can't transfer via phone. So I am more on the lines of, I don't think, they can cheaply maybe imitate it and try to sell it or whatnot. But I think the live component is going to become even, we're going to gravitate to that even more, I think. Or those who have experienced it and experienced that energy are going to get addicted to it and be like, we need more community, like live events. Like, for instance, everyone here, I think it's agreed, everyone prefers this to Zoom. So I think that component, like, we're just going to gravitate more and more to the live aspect. And there are things that I don't think AI can replace. Like, it's very, at the moment, it's even the rich and form, there are aspects of it, right, that the way it's programmed, it's predictable. It's not super creative. It doesn't know how to touch emotions yet. So we'll see. Yeah. Yeah.
Just watch some of your videos
okay.
with the robot. I'm sure AI will not replace you. It's clear. What is the connection between quantum physics and ballet? Can you give us some sort of overlaps or whatever sort of?
Yeah. Well, It's not sophisticated. I think I gravitated towards both because they're both nonverbal. I was like, let's just avoid words. So dance, I express myself with my body, and physics, it's like equations and math. So, but I do think having the two that were very different in a way has been very helpful. So that ability to kind of, I think creativity is needed all the time in the lab, especially with quantum. I was in quantum optics, so understanding like entanglement and superposition, like one has to kind of use one's.
Superposition is the point. You have a superposition when you play, or you like practice ballet.
Yeah.
So there's superposition.
I'm like in two places at once. Well, I wish I could do that more effectively. But yeah, that, and then well, definitely physics has been helpful for dance because I had limited time in the studio because I had to study and attend classes. But so understanding torque and having a understanding toric moment of inertia, having written out the equations for projectile motion in my head, I just quickly close my eyes and I kind of visualize where my center of mass needs to be. And I would do that because I was a dork. Every night I would like visualize myself sleeping. And I found that was super helpful because dance, the way they train is by repetition. But the way I kind of trained was by visualizing and understanding where visualizing it. And by understanding all the equations of physics, it made it more intuitive. But the quantum, I don't know, quantum and ballet, I wish there was a poetic way to combine those. And I think there too.
We have, where?
There's a question here.
Oh, social media track, okay, there and then there, okay.
Hi.
Then I'm going to ask.
Since this question has been asked a few times about ballet, dancing, and quantum physics, it looked like the two very different fields. But actually, everything rises, converge. Quantum physics is not like the traditional physics. It requires a wide range of perspectives. So, dancing is, for example, opened up so many perspectives. So this is from the point of spirituality to see this, everything is connected. Because quantum physics, in nature, it is spirituality.
Yeah.
And is to be expressed through science. And also, another question about the other lady asked, how do you manage to have both? Actually, this depends on the temperament of the individuals. For some people, that's impossible. Maybe it's not forever impossible, but some people are born with different talents.
Yeah.
It's like you can see it from your birth chart. You can have many talents. Some people have, but some people have only one area predominant. So these different subjects, actually, from the point of you can see quantum physics, or from spirituality, they all converged.
Yeah, it's definitely many possibilities.
So we had, sorry, another question there? Yes, okay, thank you.
Hello, really nice presentation, really informative. One question I needed to ask that one gentleman already asked you, but it's sort of a follow-up. So in your field as a quantum physicist and a ballet, is there a point of AI development that you see in our curiosity of development that is there a point that lies which we may cross where the human curiosity of basically in our evolution of and our understanding of physics, and with it, our development of robotics and its programming and all. Is there a point you see where it might become obsolete for human intervention and AI might become more dominant within that field?
Yeah, right now I do see humans being necessary for a while. I mean, this whole AGI stuff, I don't know. I've been talking to people that were with like OpenAI's plans and a lot of the companies that are working in AI, like the level that we're seeing is level 1, and they have visions up to level 5. And so that level, yeah, that's the thing, is like there's so much unknown, right? So at the moment, we're definitely necessary, even for research, et cetera, in order to guide and to see certain connections. But yeah, it's just, like the 2200 is going to be an interesting year. If we make it there.
Okay, so can we make the last question?
Yeah.
When I'm going to take
Okay.
from here. I'm going to add just a little bit,
Okay.
but it's related. The crowd asked you a lot about the love part, how the feelings that we have, towards AI. So I think there was an interesting question here that is, how did you actually feel while you were, dancing with the robot, especially that you were doing so when we were in the middle of COVID, that you couldn't interact with other dancers. So I don't know, how did that relationship develop? How do you feel? Because I don't know if it happens to you, but I tend to have some relationship with my gadgets, and in general. Thank you.
Yeah. You guys want a personal answer? So for me, when I danced with the robot, at first it was like this quirky thing in super, I know, it's like this new toy. But if I'm gonna share, I lost my mother 10 years ago. And at that time, I put a wall up, totally numb, no feeling. I had a sisterhood, I'd go back to college, I was doing my PhD, my father was in LA. Like, I just couldn't process at the moment. And also there was a fear that like I would just break if I let myself go there. So then when I started dancing with the robot, and in particular, a lot of my dances have this light on it. And for me, it's a way where I can, because if I dance with a human, like I see you, I feel you, I hear you. Like, it's just very hard to dance with other than you. But when I dance with the robot, I get to dance like memories. I get to say things that I wish I had said. I get to say things that I've been wanting to say in that moment. So it's been a very therapeutic way that, so with technology, it's been, so my most emotional and personal dances, interestingly for me, have been with the robot because it's something that's super personal. And so there's ways to use it to explore things that I haven't been able to when I'm dancing with humans. I also still really love dancing with humans. It's not that I don't, but I think it offers that different opportunity or aspect. And it makes me wonder, I think if one brings up, I think there's a lot of fear that comes and emotions that come up when we talk about a relation with a thing or a robot. And people tend to be okay when I talk about my mother, but we enter like, okay, it was someone who existed. What if it's someone who hasn't existed and it's imaginary? Like, where is the line that we're uncomfortable with? And so there's a lot that I think is going to be explored and interesting, because already, the robot I dance with is this 6-jointed, it has no arms and no legs. So if already there's like emotion with that, one can only imagine when it has a heartbeat type of feel, or it's soft and warm, like where are we going? And that's the part that I see it as, in the way that science fiction prepares us for the future, I do find Dancing with Robots is this kind of window to the future that does potentially prepare us for at least a glimpse into what is going to happen.
Well, thank you very much, Merit. This has been a fantastic talk, very inspiring, very touching. I mean, I hope we can continue this later on. So we say goodbye from you for now. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, everybody. So now, as we have done in the morning, we're going to have the first panel in the afternoon. I'm not going to introduce it myself either, so we're going to have one of our fantastic students to introduce the third panel of the first panel of the afternoon, the third of the day. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zain Allo. I'm a sophomore at Georgetown University, and while like everybody, I experience the dazzling allure of AI. And I want to ensure that our use does not distract us from being human. I want to ensure that AI, whilst already transforming higher education with the obvious potential to give every student their very own personal tutor, to give everybody their full potential, I want to make sure that we can reflect on the potential harms and the unethical uses of it. At the beginning of the semester, however, a professor of mine actually asked me candidly and our class to reflect on whether faculty should restrict AI and artificial intelligence. I've seen the first-hand damage that students have done and used habituatedly using AI, and this directly undermines their education and ultimately worries me. I don't want to be part of a lost generation of students on whom an unregulated and addictive form of AI was unleashed, resulting in mass infantilization. What can we do to ensure that this does not happen? And how do we steer from the drives of AI in ways that avoid the harms and collectively benefits us? I'm eager to learn from your perspectives and on the ways of artificial intelligence innovations can contribute to the improvement of our humanity and enrich our capacity to be authentically human. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I'm Doug Little. I am not a ballerina. You're going to find that hard to believe. I'm also not a physicist, but I am the CIO at Georgetown University, and I'm really honored to be here at the Qatar campus and moderating this very important panel on innovation and how it can improve humanity. I'm most excited to hear from this esteemed panel of technology and industry leaders. I'm going to start off by just asking them to take a couple minutes, introduce themselves so you can become familiar with them. Then we'll dive into the questions and save some time for you all to ask questions of the panel at the end. So do we want to just kind of start and go down?
Yes, this is Hakan Ozdemir. I'm responsible for Siemens, the CEO for Middle East, for smart infrastructure business, as well as the Siemens Qatar CEO. Happy to be here.
Thank you.
Hello, Rika Nakazawa, Chief Commercial Innovation of NTT. NTT is a global technology services and solutions company. NTT does stand for Nippon Telegraph and Telephone Company. We don't do the telegraph part anymore. And we are more than half of our workforce, 340,000 people, is outside of Japan. I'm born and raised in Japan. I know it's not obvious. My mother is German, so I'm a true Eurasian. 23andMe told me so. And I'm very excited to have this discussion today. It's a very important topic and something that I dream about it, I talk to my friends about it, and it's definitely embedded in my work. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mohammed. I'm a computer science professor at Carnegie Mellon. I research and teach artificial intelligence for medicine and distributed systems. I design and build distributed systems for artificial intelligence applications and graph mining. I'm also the founder and CEO of Avi. It's an AI startup company at QSTP, developing actually an AI model that can do clinical reasoning, that can listen, reason, speak, see, and feel. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi, everyone. I'm Mohammad Al-Hardan, head of TMT at the Qatar Investment Authority. TMT, for those who don't know, is technology, media, and telecom. been with QIA since graduating in 09 from the neighboring school to Georgetown here in Qatar, Carnegie Mellon.
Great, thank you. Like I said, we've got a great panel, some very esteemed panelists who I think are going to have a lot to say about our topic, which is how innovation can improve humanity. The session description, which you might have read, introduces the term polycrisis, which is coined from the French philosopher and sociologist Edgar Morin, which he describes as a complex situation where multiple interconnected crises converge and amplify each other, resulting in predicaments that are difficult to manage or resolve. The hype, or perhaps should I say hope, which our student panelists introduced so well, is that AI is a powerful enough technology to help resolve some of these interconnected problems. I'm going to ask the first panel question to Mohammed. As the head of technology, media, and telecommunication investments at the Qatar Investment Authority, what are some ways you've seen positive impacts from AI globally? And perhaps how do you think maybe the government of Qatar might think about using those AI benefits to humanity within the country or within the region?
Yes, definitely. AI comes with a lot of opportunity and risk. And for investors, we're in this business. We're in the business of maximizing return and minimizing risk. I think to start off, if we look at AI, and it's obvious to everyone that AI will bring a lot of efficiency and productivity gains. And theoretically, this should flow through down to the consumer. So I think the immediate theoretical long-term benefit is that we will see cheaper products and services, which translates into better livelihoods, which translates into higher disposable income, and everything that is positive around that. Obviously, subject to potentially stagflationary policies from newly elected presidents. We're yet to see how that translates globally. But definitely there's going to be, in the long term at least theoretically, higher disposable income, better livelihoods, a growing, theoretically middle class. One of the most interesting applications of AI or benefits from AI that we've seen is actually in healthcare. If you look at the average study with ChatGPT versus your average GP, ChatGPT is really empowering individuals such as yourself, such as myself, people who don't have backgrounds in medicine, in diagnosing. And I think that has a large implication when it comes to cost. And that obviously trickles down to the economy. So better diagnosis, potentially lowering costs, and even for, let's say, public health budgets, there's huge benefits. I remember in Qatar a few years ago, we had a large insurance scheme for the citizens of Qatar, and this was greatly abused. The cost was mushrooming. But I think AI has a lot to benefit, let's say, the newly appointed Minister of Health, who's actually the ex-CEO of QIA, in utilizing AI in order to solve for all the deficiencies that the previous insurance scheme had, and potentially lowering the cost for everyone when it comes to medical care. So from the get-go, that's a big, major improvement. In terms of what I'm seeing with regards to the benefit that Qatar has to reap. So in QIA, we're very closely monitoring developments globally. We invest in companies that are best of breed in AI. And the first thing that we try to do is try to bring these companies to do something in Doha and Qatar. And there are a number of strategic potential projects that you will see coming to the market here in Qatar. Additionally, what we try to do from QIA is really look at making sure that Qatar is ready from an infrastructure perspective. So we have two companies that are subsidiaries of QIA, GBI and QBN, and we've announced the merger of those two companies. So really setting the field in order for Qatar to be ready from a digital infrastructure perspective in order to welcome all the AI applications that would potentially evolve and benefit society at large, both in Qatar and globally.
Great, thank you. Let's stick with that theme of health, because I think that's a very interesting one. And let's hear from Professor Hammoud about you're a researcher, you utilize AI, but you're also an engineer that builds AI models. Can you speak a little bit about how you're possibly seeing AI improve humanity at solving those complex problems, particularly maybe the biggest polycrisis of our time, human health? Because I know you've done a lot of research in that area.
Sure. I mean, Dr. Moore mentioned AlphaGo. which actually massively exceeded the human capacity in playing Go. The very same team actually at DeepMind at Google, they also actually developed AlphaZero, which is now the best chess player in the world, using the same technology, which is reinforcement learning in computer science. Later, based on these two projects, actually, the same team developed what they call AlphaFold. AlphaFold, actually, they trained a deep learning model on the sequence of amino acids to figure out the 3D structure of a protein. To my knowledge, if I'm not wrong, it used to take a PhD student at a top school, maybe actually 4 to 5 years, to figure out for a given protein the 3D structure. Why is this important? Because once you figure out the 3D structure of protein, you can learn how to latch a certain drug into it. So we all know, for instance, that Alzheimer and Parkinson's diseases are caused by misfold of proteins. So if you can figure out the 3D structure of any protein, you can facilitate actually drug discovery and many other applications in medicines and other. This has been a very, very challenging and slow problem. AlphaFold was trained actually on some data, not a lot, and it tapped into a space that was not actually tapped into by human beings before, and managed, after training it maybe for a few days, to really solve the problem. It's now considered a solved problem. It's over. Now you can actually feed AlphaFold any sequence of amino acids. It's going to give you actually the 3D structure. So this has been a problem for decades, maybe more than 60, 70 years, now was solved actually through AI. Many other problems actually from academia and industry. Take, for instance, the deep learning model that appeared at the Nature journal, a simple model from MIT, trained on some data, more precisely the chemical structures, to really predict and learn the molecular activity. Now, it takes actually biologists and medical people from 3 to 9 years to discover a certain antibiotic. That model was trained, and then it managed in few days to analyze more than 100 million compounds and discover a new antibiotic in days only, literally. A new antibiotic, they called it halicine. A new antibiotic that was not discovered before, and it can actually cure certain bacteria or bacteria strains that are known in medicine, for instance, to be resistant to every known existing antibiotic. So now a process that used to take 3 to 9 years, and I'm not exaggerating, it takes now 3 to 7 days. Just to give you an example of what AI or how AI can help humanity in many ways. To conclude, Mohammed mentioned, for instance, medical diagnosis. Of course, large language models tapping into the transformer idea can maybe reach actually the capacity of a human being or of a human doctor doing diagnosis. But there are other technologies in computer science that already proved actually to exceed the human capacity when it comes to medical diagnosis. And that's exactly what we have worked on at Carnegie Mellon. We developed actually an AI model that uses Bayesian networks. And in combination with convolution neural networks, another technology actually in computer science, we put them together. And we managed actually to outperform the human capacity. The model competed against a panel of physicians with 16.6 years of experience and outperformed them. A journal paper just appeared in April 29th at GMIR in Canada that reports all the results. These are just actually a few examples of what AI can do to help the humanity, more precisely in healthcare, because that's my specialty.
Yeah, great examples. And while we're on that theme of exceeding human capacity and doing things very quickly, let's go to Rika, who is trilingual, career technologist, grew up in Japan, went to the United States, attended Princeton. You've worked globally. You've lived in Silicon Valley. More recently, have lived in Austin. You're an author. You've wrote several books, one on digital innovations for sustainable economies and societies. You're also a double master's. You're graduating here soon. So talk about stretching the bounds of human production. I think that's you in human form. You're currently focusing on commercial innovation initiatives for NTT, like space and satellites, as well as more near term on the World Expo in Japan. We've heard sort of how from a kind of a global perspective and how we might think about AI, a positive effect in Qatar and the region. How do you see AI having a positive impact in some of the work you're advancing in terms of applying disruptive technologies like AI on the other side of the world, in the Pacific Rim and in societies in East and West?
Yeah, thank you for the questions, and I've definitely leveraged technology as much as I possibly can. I have an older brother who majored in psychology as an undergrad and then AI in his PhD, so he was kind of early days of where things are going around what we call agentic AI, which is all around trying to reason and try to, with emotions out of the equation, thankfully, try to figure out kind of some of these more accurate predictive forms that are going to be more helpful. The couple of the areas that I've been focusing on at NTT, so one of the more compelling areas is around this idea of moving from an electronic to a photonic networking infrastructure and computing infrastructure. So fiber optics have been around for a while, so that's not new. But what is new is around this idea of an all-photonic network, really being able to embed photons and light particle and transmission of data that we believe will substantially cut the energy consumption of compute. So everything at the chip level, then in the server level to communications across data centers and across compute systems. So we have an organization that we're part of called the Innovative Optical and Wireless Network. That is a consortium of over 140 companies and organizations that are focusing on that, because it does take the global village to make that happen. And the other areas around space and satellites, of course, this morning's keynote was, I was the person that asked the question and wrote an article about bromance in space. I think that this whole idea of what was called the blue marble by the astronauts in 1972, Apollo 17 took a picture of the Earth and called it the blue marble. And so now at NTT, we have a division called Marble Vision, inspired by that idea of the picture of the Earth, where the view from space is giving us an understanding of how that's going to inform decisions that we need to make holistically. I give a talk around this notion of Anthropocene. Has anybody here heard the term Anthropocene? You can raise your hand if you've heard it. So thank you. So Anthropocene, for those who have not heard the term, is a geological era that anthropologists and archaeologists have assigned human existence here on Earth that roughly started in the 1950s, validated just recently with some discovery in a lake in Canada that demonstrated deposits that are not organic. They were there because of our civilization. The 1950s is roughly when we think the Anthropocene era started, because that was when Industrial Revolution really went into full force. And so one of the questions when it comes to innovation for humanity is, this is not sustainable, the Anthropocene. If you want to read about what were the compounds that were found in the lake, they're not entirely pleasant, nor are they sustainable. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, what role is AI going to play for us to define the next era? And what is that next era going to look like? And so in the satellite and space world, and Earth observation being one of the other areas, one of the things that I'm really fascinated by, and I worked for NVIDIA between 2006 and 2010, and I've had the opportunity to revisit my days back at NVIDIA, because now we see Unreal Engine coming into play around running simulations using visual cues and what we see from a 3D mapping technologies, but also combining a lot of disparate forms of data that can come from remote sensing from satellites. So not just optical, but SAR, heat, gas, all of these things. But the visual language model, so we talk about large language models. What about visual language models? What is that going to look like when we can actually use Gen AI to help us interpret data, use tools like Unreal or Unity, all the classic engines that we're using in the gaming universe to map physical simulations, and to be able to help us figure out if this, then that, because it is a system design, as you heard this morning. We're a global economy, we're all interconnected, tariffs aside, and so those are some of the things that we need to think about, and some of the ways that we need to think about this digital innovation, because we do, whenever I bring up space and satellite, people start to think rocket science, and it's not. You know, the space orbit is a natural extension of where we are today, and it's critically important for us to think about that. One other area that we've been looking at, and not just doing the R&D, so NTT spends $3.5 billion US on R&D every year. And so my role is to identify those pockets that are going to be commercially viable in the near term, sustainably. And so the other area that we've been investing in is okay, so we have large language models over here. I just put forward this idea of visual language models and how we use a lot of the data that comes from Earth observation, remote sensing. We also have an engine called Suzumi. It's a small language model, because the idea is that if you can combine a number of small language models that are fit for purpose for a specific thing, so instead of taking all of the data and then enabling the training models to interpret it in the way that you need to and eventually getting to the agentic AI, is can we use small language models that are purpose-built? And can those small language models start working with each other to run parallel tasks and needs that we need to do? So I think I'm very excited. I'm very optimistic and positive about the role that AI is going to play, because going back to the ballerina physicists, it is going to help diminish the high-risk jobs that are manual. And for example, there was a strike in the US, port workers struck. I just realized I don't know. Went on strike. Yeah. Went on strike, struck. They went on strike, and because they were up in arms about the use of automation and robots. But port work is dangerous work. So how can we use AI to take the dangerous jobs, the manual jobs out, and then to open up the human creative form, because everybody has a superpower that remains untapped, I'm sure. And with Gen AI, we can really tap into that.
Thanks, it's great. Last, certainly not least, let's go to Hakan, who is the CIO of Siemens in Qatar and Siemens Smart Infrastructure in the Middle East. You've had a lot of diverse global work experience and work in the USA. Sounds like you have a very small, non-stressful job, not busy at all. But in your work at Siemens, I imagine you've had to work very broadly with a truly global focus with some of the largest sort of systems around the globe. Help us zoom out a bit and talk with us about what you're seeing or what you hope to see AI make positive changes in some of those very large global systems.
Right. Actually, the AI is, for us, let's start with saying that it's one of the shifts in technological evolution of not only the human being, for the corporates, for the business that we are proposing to the customers and the stakeholders. And Siemens founded in 1847, so 177 years, full of innovations for all this long life of the company. And when we look at our history, so Werner von Siemens was the founder, and he founded the company as a startup. So we still see ourselves a gigantic startup. So this is a key terminology. Why am I saying this? Because some people think like, not only with AI, with some technological shift, there will be less workers, or there will be job cuts, or there will be some dangerous stuff. But I think internet was one of the big shifts as well. Yeah. And just to give you the glimpse about the technology, so to reach 50 million users, I always give these examples. For example, for television, it took 40 plus years. For radio, it took 30 plus years. For internet, it took 7 plus years. And when you launch a new game nowadays, it might take minutes. Not even, you don't need to wait a year to reach 50 million users if it is in the YouTube or any other platform. So the technological shift is becoming faster. So the speed is accelerating a lot. So that gives us actually an opportunity by using the AI type or AI-powered technologies, not only AI basically, I will give a couple of examples soon, and to solve some real faced challenges of worldwide. What are those? Global warming is one of them. To become much more sustainable, we can leverage AI. To create the digital transformation much better, efficient, we can utilize AI. and all these technologies. For us, AI is one of the key technologies. Just to give you the real examples of the life, in Qatar, we use the grids to distribute the energy, right? So if you leverage AI with the smart meterings and while the predictive maintenance as well as the better service and understand supply demand, how it is changing based on the AI, then you can create lots of energy efficiency. So this is, for example, big opportunity. And we did it for Hammoud International Airport, for district cooling systems, for Kahraman, for digital grids, for other countries, of course. Since we are in Qatar right now, I'm CEO of Qatar. I like to promote Qatar a little bit, because Qatar likes to utilize the new technologies upfront, other than most of the countries, which can serve sustainability and the technological shifts like this. Another example is transportation. We are using in Education City our trams, they're all electrified trams. There is 18 of trams, fully sustainable, carrying 60,000 per year, all the students in Education City campus, and works with, again, the AI-based service and maintenance mindset. So you can understand when it's gonna come, when it's gonna leave, and everything. So AI is a backed up technology, is another one. So in buildings, we are in one of the key buildings here, but in Qatar, the new hotels and the big buildings are very famous, and Musharraf is a smart city, Lusail is smart city, not only the smart cities, but at the same time, sustainable cities. How about that? We collect all the data on the fire system, cooling system, energy systems, and everything for the building management systems, and we utilize, again, the AI technology to come up with better energy efficiency and less cost of operational of the buildings. So you save tons of carbons in the environment, and plus lots of savings in financial terms as well, and faster type of management skills in this kind of management of the cities. This is one critical area of Siemens is playing active. This is called smart infrastructure. And there is in the digital industries, you come up with anything and we create the digital twin. You mentioned, for example, this, the simulations. In Siemens, we combine the real world with the digital world, we say so. The main reason, whatever you see, we create the simulation of it in the digital twin platform. We call this industrial metaverse. Then once you simulate the things, then you can do anything on the digital term without any too much cost. Imagine we work with Maserati. If you want to build a factory, we build the factory in the simulation, in the 3D systems, in the software platform. We even produce the cars and tailor-made cars in the digital platform, thanks to AI technologies again. Then it creates 30+% efficiency on the cost of making the factory, because you made the lots of trials of the cars already in digital term. So, and quicker to the market. So if one car goes to market 1 year, so it gives you another 20 to 30% faster go-to-market strategies. So these are all savings, actually. What are we doing that? For humanity overall, global warming was one example, but we need this kind of solutions for the challenges of the world. So, and I just gave a couple of examples from Qatar, but worldwide there are too many examples to do so. The only thing is how to utilize those technologies much more responsibly, timely, effectively, and the right financial scheme. You know it from Silicon Valley. I think they are really good at doing this, kind of the funding platforms to fund those kind of technologies and implementations in real life, so that you have the scale-up opportunities. Because as long as you make them the scale-up, it's much better. But let's not forget the AI is a technology, but behind it there are too many different items, different types of technologies. For me, it's important. Another one, complementary, goes hand in hand with AI, is data analytics and data. So if you don't have any data, so there is no AI, there is no human to work on. So that's the reason we need the data, much more accurate data, from big data to much more meaningful data. This is already enough, too much things to do, I mean. Because everybody felt it in B2C, in the consumer world, with the ChatGPT, just one name, but LLMs, basically. Why? Because there are lots of data with the right CPU, GPUs processed so that they can answer your needs, and the people were amazed how the AI is being implemented in our lives. But in industrial world, 70 to 80% of data we are not using. I'm just imagining, so if we utilize those data, how we can help the energy transition worldwide, how we can make the world better place in the energy, in water, in other areas. So different verticals, healthcare is another one you mentioned, and mobility, transportation is another one of them. So this data, and to utilize the right data with the right data analytics is already going to support too much on the AI so that I can make much more quality work to put for the people so that we can all get benefits from.
That's great. Let's pull on that theme just a little bit. I think all of you provided wonderful examples about how AI is currently improving humanity, but I imagine there's probably some choke points. There's some things we need as a society as we adapt this new technology. I'd be interested to hear maybe briefly from everyone on the panel, what are some of those choke points? What do we need in terms of either education, new software, access to new data? What's sort of inhibiting us bringing more of these positive things that you all mentioned to the forefront and spreading it out? I don't know who wants to.
I'll go.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I'll go. We need more girls and women in STEM.
Amen. Yeah.
We need.
Yes.
We need more women VCs.
Yeah.
I'm a venture capitalist. I'm a limited partner in one venture group in Silicon Valley and a venture partner in two others. And two of them are focused on investing in women-founded startups. So if anybody would like to reach out to me about that, I'd love to talk to you. And we also need to remember that, and to support women entrepreneurs as well. So right now, I think it's still only between 2 and 3% of venture-funded startups are founded by women only. In many cases, I lived in Silicon Valley for 15 years, and so I've witnessed this kind of firsthand. A lot of women end up bringing on a co-founder who's male, just so that she could get a foot in the door in some of the meetings. So that's one piece. The other piece I would say is that there's still about 2 billion people that aren't even online, which is something that's easy for us to forget and dismiss. And because of how important data is, there's a whole group of people that, again, without more of the of women and girls in STEM and being part of the future workforce, this conference has that theme, we're missing out on a large group of data cubes of people and part of the other half of the sky that are not being represented in some of the ways that AI is going to help inform decisions. That's mine.
No, that's great. Anyone else from the panel? Yeah.
I think the biggest choke point that we see from kind of an investor perspective is definitely there's this shortage of power. These GPUs consume a lot of power. There's supply constraints on these GPUs. There's so much demand for these GPUs, and literally we're seeing countries, run out of power. And a lot of the large big tech companies, the Metas, the Amazons of the world are literally going country by country, knocking on their door and asking us, can we build a large data center, gigawatt type data center? But then that has its own implications with regards to the grid in a particular country, with regards to just general emissions. There's ESG concerns. I think it was Meta that tried to build a large power plant, and I think a specific species of bees was a threat, and they didn't get the approval. And so this remains probably one of the biggest issues that we see. I mean, we see these funding rounds mushroom literally in the billions, and most of that capital is either going to chips or going to the energy side. And so in a world of concern around global warming and ESG, the AI needs of power is just out of proportion. And that will have long-term implications on the environment, and that will extend to human species.
How about in the research and education area?
Sure. What does it take to develop an AI model? You need just, honestly, first, you need to believe that it can be done. You have to have a vision, and it's beautiful if you can have a very ambitious vision. And then you bring some beautiful minds together. You don't really need many, maybe a few. I mean, the Attention All What You Need paper that was published in 2017 by Google gave rise to OpenAI. Only few people were working on it. And it was like revolutionary. So you get a few beautiful minds together who believe that they can do something. You get some data. By the way, even if you don't have data, we have a lot of beautiful techniques now in computer science that can compensate for that. Either at the modeling level, there are techniques, a basic technique, for instance, which became famous, like the triple loss function. It can compensate for data in a beautiful manner. Even when it comes actually to the layer of the data, we have a beautiful subdomains now about data augmentation and data synthesization. So it's not crippling, even if you don't have data. And I'm saying this actually from experience in medicine, because I'm doing research in medicine and I'm developing AI models for medical purposes. And it's not easy to access data, but it has never been a crippling thing, to be honest. We always managed to figure out to compensate for data. So you get the beautiful minds, you get the data, you need the GPU resources, certainly. And then maybe you can actually set and focus for 2 years, 3 years. The diagnostic model, AVI, which we published, is online now. More than 1 million people actually just downloaded it and they are using it. Simply actually took us around 3 years of extensive R&D and extensive testing with the human doctors until we realized ethically that we can launch it, and we launched it. That's all what it takes. Now, of course, you always want to translate that science into something that is very impactful. Here comes actually how you're gonna maybe monetize this. A study that comes to mind now was conducted actually a few years ago in the US by the Idea Lab. They took 200 companies, since you spoke about startups, 200 ventures, 100 that made it, including maybe Instagram and others, and 100 that failed. And they really collected a lot of data. They interviewed CEOs, founders, employees that worked at these companies, many actually aspects they collected and analyzed. And they wanted to figure out what really were the things that made these 100 ventures succeed and the other 100 ventures fail. And what they found, actually 5 factors. The very first factor is actually the idea, the science. You have a beautiful idea that can really bridge a certain gap in the market and achieve what they call the product market fit, then there is a potential there. But that actually does not cut it, does not make it. You need actually the team and execution. You need someone who can take that idea and make it a reality in real life. That's factor number 2. Factor number 3, at the end of the day, and we spoke about finance and we have investors here, you need a business model. You need a way to monetize this. You want it to become sustainable so that you can make more money out of it and then feed further into your ambition of creating something that is more impactful and more innovative. So you need that innovation in the business model itself. 4, you need funds. At the end of the day, you have to fund the R&D. Maybe you're gonna spend 3-5 years. In the US, it takes, studies show, I'm reading a book now, I'm sure most of you read it, for Scott Galloway. He took many companies, studied them, and then he identified 4 that made it through his methodology and realized he actually put together a lot of statistics and studies in the book. He showed that in the US, it takes actually a company that is deep in science 7 years. And it spends on average $53 million before it makes it. We don't understand that here. Like, who's gonna come and give you $53 million on average? It could be less, it could be more. And be patient with you for 7 years before you can make it. I was listening to the founder of Moderna, he's Lebanese, I'm Lebanese. And he said that he started this endeavor in 2011. And he managed somehow to convince the investors to give him money close to around $2 billion from 2011 all the way till 2018, working on 75 projects that pertain to RNA and testing and trying and failing massively, thousands of times. When the pandemic hit, when COVID hit, he said we really, literally had everything ready. It took them, you know what, 24 hours. He said it took us literally 24 hours to develop the vaccine. The rest of the time was not actually a shortage in technology. It was logistics and legal and I don't know what and manufacturing, 24 hours. But it took before that from 2011 all the way till 2018, someone who believed on those people to go and work on that thing. And those people were crazy enough to believe that we can actually reprogram the human body and figure out how to cure diseases and make vaccines through this new technology. And they made it, and look where Moderna is now. The fifth factor is the time. There are a lot of ideas, beautiful ideas. Maybe they don't make it because you don't have all what it takes in terms of time. Like you really need, Jeff Bezos was talking about why actually Amazon made it at the time when he launched Amazon. He said, imagine that we don't have the internet infrastructure. Would Amazon work? Even if he had the idea actually at that time and there is no internet, it would not work. E-commerce will not work. So you really need to launch the idea at the right time with the right people. If you can get those 5 factors, you can do magic, literally magic. And the time now is really, and it's not a hype, it's a hope. The time now is really for AI. It's actually the present and the future. It's literally not hype. What AI is currently doing and what we'll do is gonna be massive. And I know this from extensive experience in computer science. We are visualizing. You spoke about interpretability and how can you understand what the AI is doing. It's amazing when you start studying the latent space of the AI models. There is a beautiful field now in AI. We call it AI explainability and interpretability. It's like, read the papers that are coming out from Anthropic, which is competing now with OpenAI in the US. They got from Amazon more than $2.5 billion in investment. It's amazing what they are observing, what they are seeing, what the AI can do. Down actually, I don't know, in the 1,000th layer down there, actually what those small neurons are learning. We don't even, as a human beings, understand, to be honest, how this is happening. We know how to design it, and we let it actually go and work by itself, and suddenly actually it does something, and then we realize, wow, it solved a certain problem that we could not before, but literally, in many cases, we don't know how. And that's what gave rise actually to the interpretability field in computer science. Point is, it's beautiful, AI is beautiful. Of course, it's not only about its capacity and what it can do, it's also about its usability. How would you use it? You can use it in the right way or you can use it in the wrong way. That has been always the case for many technologies and many ideas that came out. But how to really drive that innovation, you need these kinds of factors to come together, and then you can watch and see something beautiful.
So you just reminded me, by the way, speaking of how long it takes for something to succeed, I joined NVIDIA in 2006. I was introduced to NVIDIA by somebody who joined them in 2001. And so everybody thinks about NVIDIA being an overnight success. And before anybody asks me during the reception, no, I did not hold on to my stock. I left in 2010, and I had my RSA sitting in my Charles Schwab account. And I was like, oh, I don't really need this. And so I sold all my shares. If you really want me to cry on your shoulder, you can ask me later privately how much I would have in my bank account. I would be investing.
Many people. Oh, you shouldn't have calculated.
So sovereign wealth fund. So Jensen, he almost went out of business at least once, right? And same with Tesla, with Elon Musk, and before the government came in and helped him out. So that's an excellent point.
There is something about games, by the way. NVIDIA, the GPU, was designed actually for games, literally. AlphaGo, AlphaZero, actually was designed for games, to play the Go game.
Well, this
is the
Matrix.
chess game.
We are in a game.
Literally, seriously. There is something about games, and then suddenly those technologies became so influential and so important to solve real-world problems that are changing the humanity and how we think, how we perceive, how we engage. It's amazing, and they all came from games.
Yeah. Kind of keeping on that theme, I'm going to transition to audience questions. Feel free to submit some more. We've got some good ones here in the queue. It's sort of what is that limit of AI? So can we fully rely on AI to build our trains, houses, and hospitals, and to do it more flawlessly than we are currently doing that? Do you want to maybe comment on that? You were talking about how trains are kind of running here in University City. Do you think we'll get to that point to where we can fully use AI to maybe build better than we've been able to?
I mean, as long as you have enough data, you can do anything.
Yep.
This is the basic answer for me, because once you collect the data from the sensors or whatever, right? So the AI is already calculating with this new strong GPU mentalities too much things. I mean, you can do lots of things. But there are, I think I like to contribute to previous question as well. For me, like there is two items is important while doing all those. So the first one is the most of the people, my observation, and I know it from the discussions in the corporate life with the customers, with the stakeholders, with the investment authorities, and most of the startups or the people, they want to utilize AI to make more money. So this is the human psychological, maybe, the reflection. So financial gains, which means most of the AI tools are being developed in blockchain to calculate the price of Bitcoin or stock prices in United States so that they can make quicker the best profit. So I think one of the key tech areas is going to be edtech. So because in the technological shifts, when the financial maturity is there, the next item, again, in the cycles, going back to the education. So right now, nobody, like, in my forecast, is not talking that much on the edtech technologies, which is like how you upskill the people in university. I'm not talking about this because I'm in the hosted by Georgetown.
Right, by Georgetown, right.
But we talk about it in everywhere because we have even the accelerator platform as Siemens. We invite all the companies who develop something. We like to manage the ecosystem, but not every byte of the technology. So if a company has the solution for this challenge or this, that, whatever, they can present their solutions in our ecosystem. So this is open digital business platform. I find the same in the university life. So we like to upskill the people, but how to upskill the people? Do we know it? And do we utilize AI to upskill people as well? Which is, for me, the translation of edtech. So no matter you operate the hospital and everything, so how do you expect the people contribute on top of AI? Which kind of upskills? And who is educating those people according to what? Is it like mass education? Most likely as of like today. So I collect all the students. It was in the room, but right now remote, hybrid. But I taught them like one specific syllabus, and they find their way. But based on the statistics, all the new innovators are not following the pattern of university. We know some of the famous people. They didn't even graduate. So how this is going to change, how we will find the ways to upskill the people, to implement the better solutions of AI, to utilize more responsibly this, not maybe on the financial goals, but much more bigger purposes worldwide. So this is, I guess, the more important than managing hospital only with AI.
Great. We've got a couple minutes left. Why don't we kind of go down the panel again, and let's fast forward 5 years from now, right? What would be your biggest hope that AI would have done between now and then to improve humanity? We'll start at that side and work our way down.
Yeah, I think just looking at the developments of humanoids and all the ancillary technologies kind of feeding into that, I think in 5 years' time, definitely we'll see structural unemployment being caused by humanoids, displacing humans in jobs that are very repetitive, mundane, jobs that require a specific skill, but not something that is high value add. We'll probably hope to see more of that will reap a lot of benefits for economies, especially Qatar. Qatar employs a lot of blue collar workers. A worker is sick and you need to care for them from a medical perspective, but a robot, you can fix a robot up, it can work 24/7, that has benefits for everyone. So, specific economies will benefit, but the implications are is there'll be structural unemployment. People will need to be re-skilled into jobs that let's say require a lot of creativity, require a lot of what humans have to offer. Caring for a newborn child or caring for an elderly, I would say is something that a robot will probably not displace in the next 5 years. But 10 years from now, 20 years from now, when the robot has empathy, when it can understand and react to how you're feeling by looking at your visual cues, I think maybe in 10 years' time that could happen. We'll see.
Great.
Well, sure. Who knows when AI came out? Any idea?
50s, wasn't it?
In 1954, 1960, yeah. 57, there you go. Between 1954 and 1960, so roughly speaking. AI has been with us actually forever. We've been teaching AI at academia forever. So, and we have been all using AI, like every time you go to Amazon, you order a book, and then you see there, people who ordered this book also ordered these books. This is what we call a recommendation system. It's an AI system. The algorithm that they use is called collaborative filtering. You go and watch a movie on Netflix, then you see actually some recommended movies there. Those are recommended by the AI. You search on Google, by the way. Google is the biggest AI model out there, the Google search engine. They use what they call learning to rank to return to you the most relevant websites. So AI has been with us for a long time, but it was taking a back seat, right? Recently, with the emergence of OpenAI, now we are talking about the co-pilot phenomenon. So it was in the back seat, now suddenly it's in the front seat, and it's co-piloting with the human being. I think within a few years from now, I don't know what it means, 5 or 10, no one can know, but in the future, as we make more progress in AI, I think what will happen actually, we'll see two things. You will see certain things happening really in collaboration between AI and human beings, but you will see actually AI also taking the lead, being the pilot. And maybe the humans will do something else for certain specific tasks and jobs. Especially when it comes what Mohammed said, we know this in computer science, whenever you have a repetitive task and there is clearly, conceptually, a pattern, then you would know that this actually is amenable to be solved through AI. Because AI is good at one thing, which is detect a pattern. So any job, any task that you feel it's kind of repetitive, it has a certain pattern inherent in it, you can assume that at one point in time, maybe AI is going to go take over. So you will find actually AI doing a lot of things for us in the future by themselves. Okay? And you will find helping us also, that's the co-pilot approach. And the backseat will remain there because many systems you will use, they will be actually driven by AI.
And just adding to what you said, I mean, OpenAI was a non-for-profit. I mean, it's OpenAI, and we can discuss the debate on why it's for-profit or not. But the money that backed OpenAI was at the time when it wasn't feasible. The compute was too expensive. It was taking too long to develop these models. Pushing through that training data, so it wasn't feasible. So if it was just investors investing for commercial returns, even with a long-term view, we wouldn't be here. The reason we're here is that some people took a leap of faith, looked at it as a non-commercial entity that has potential value for humanity, and in parallel, GPU power improved, and that's why we have this AI moment that we're seeing.
We're out of time. Real quick, speed round.
Yes, two quick things. One is I'm working on something that is called the Osaka Protocol, which is a Kyoto protocol, but focused on funding STEM programs for girls and women. That will be showcased at the Osaka World Expo. The next World Expo is in Osaka in 2025. The one in 2030, 5 years from now, will be Saudi Arabia, Riyadh. So hopefully everybody here will have signed on to the Osaka Protocol. The second, just quick one, is I think that we need to have Gen AI in service of what artificial intelligence be in service of organic intelligence. There's a lot of intelligence and technology that exists in nature, like photosynthesis, there's still a part of the photosynthesis process that physicists still don't understand. Well, maybe Dr. Moore, the ballerina physicist, might. But if we could bottle what nature already does, and biomimicry is another term for it, but I'd like to see organic intelligence be right there alongside artificial intelligence.
Biggest hope in the next 5 years?
Yeah, biggest hope for me, I guess the better quality of human life.
Yeah.
Overall, this is the bottom line. If it is not serving for this, so what is that for? And how to achieve this from the Siemens point of view, we always work for the bigger purpose to deliver some value for the societies, not on the commercial world. That's the reason I think even though our portfolio somehow is serving, how do we deliver right energy, green energy to respective places? Yeah. Because if you, again, look at the data, in Africa, still the 20% of people do not have any reach to internet.
Yeah.
And there are some hungry people still. Then the level of the humanity is not the same worldwide. So how AI can support us to make this equilibrium or adjustments, I think this is my hope.
That's a great hope. This has been a great day. This has been a wonderful panel. We've got a 15-minute break, but please come back because we've got a fascinating panel on AI and labor market transformation. Before we take that break, let's give one big round of applause to this fantastic panel. Thank you all so much.